that on the other side of that hard conversation is a better version of yourself, and typically a result you didn't expect coming. Hello everybody, on today's episode, I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why you need more challenges in your life. And it's based off this quote: hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and then weak men create hard times. I love this quote because I have been all of those people, and I'm striving to be the strong man right now, but I've definitely been the weak man who's created terrible times for myself. First thing is your AMCC. To be honest, I can't remember what it stands for, but it has to do with brain growth. Specifically, when they researched this, they found that people that took on more challenges in their life, this area of their brain grew. Not only that, it directly correlated to longevity. So that means the more challenges you take on, the bigger this part of your brain actually grows and will give you a longer life, or studies show that it can help attribute to a longer life. A great example of that is actually my grandfather, who is well into his 80s, looking at 90 here. And you would never guess it the way he moves, talks, and how mobile he is. Because when you think of somebody that's almost 90, most people think of somebody hunched over in a wheelchair, walking around with crutches. Well, that's not this man. This man is sharp as a whip and has a lot of drive, and only stopped working just because he had nothing else to do. And so it is a great example of somebody that is really take on challenge after challenge after challenge and rose above those to be able to get to where he is now, being a very successful businessman. Secondly, for mental strength. Now, when you challenge yourself mentally with a problem, you're going to hit that threshold that feels super uncomfortable. Well, that right there, according to research, that there is a threshold of learning. And when we back away from that threshold, we actually don't learn anything. My suggestion then is to push through that threshold. I have noticed this time and time again during my daily research and taking on new challenges and learning new things that I normally wouldn't. So when you push past those thresholds, you get a rush of adrenaline and a bit of dopamine because you learned something and it was exciting. But it only comes from breaking that uncomfortable, that challenging barrier. And if it's not challenging, you're not going to get that. Those things help with your brain's desire to learn more and take on more challenges, because now you're rewarding yourself by learning something difficult. The third reason is that emotionally, you cannot feel any happiness. You can never feel joy or excitement unless you have pain and sadness or loss as a point of reference. Let that sink in for a minute. I know it sounds crazy, but if you've never experienced loss, disappointment, sadness, anger, you can't have the opposite because you don't know what it is. Because if it's always happy all the time, your baseline just becomes up here, which is unrealistic. That's not life. We are exposed to experience all these different range of emotions. So when you have those things that are discomforting and are painful and you experience loss, and it actually allows you to feel, and when you really feel them, that's the key, is to sink into that feeling. It allows you to feel happiness and joy and excitement so much more. A great example is if you ever played a sport or a game with somebody and it was so close, whether you could win or lose, and you finally pulled out a win at the very end. Anybody that's played a football game, any basketball game, any sort of sport, team sport where it's close, knows that feeling, how exciting it is to win that game in the last moments when it was neck and neck, because you've had struggles, because you've had loss, because you had moments of pain. It feels so much better. But when you are constantly winning and you play a game from start to finish and you are absolutely dominating somebody in, let's say, any sort of game or any sort of competition, you don't feel the same level of joy or happiness because you haven't had the loss or the suffering or any sort of pain in comparison. So what can we do? It's a great question. And I have 3 ways to be able to help you add small challenges in your life that can make a big impact. And I say this because I've been that weak man, or at least now I look back and I was that weak man, and I can admittedly say that. And now I'm striving to be better and striving to be a strong man that can create good times for myself. So the first thing is taking cold showers. It sounds kind of weird. People do ice baths, and that's totally fine if you have it, but a cold shower is something that's very simple and can take 3 to 5 minutes. My suggestion is starting where it's uncomfortable and slowly work your way to where it's colder and colder. Why do this? Because it's uncomfortable. As we said before, it's painful. It's actually not enjoyable to do. But if you're starting your day off like that, you're telling your brain that you can move through this difficult challenge. And on the other side of it, once you're halfway in, to be honest, it feels normal and it's okay. It's never fun, because I do them every morning. I've been doing them for 2 years. But I can promise you, you'll have more emotional and mental strength going into your day because you've taken on that small little challenge and made it through. The second one is hard conversations. Our lives are built off of communication, and having hard conversations can be so challenging. There's always a lot of fear there. There's a lot of worry and doubt about what someone else will think or what might happen. But I can tell you from experience, somebody that used to avoid hard conversations and did it quite well, that on the other side of that hard conversation is a better version of yourself, and typically a result you didn't expect coming. I've seen this in my own life, having difficult conversations with my wife where I've had to speak my mind on something that most men wouldn't say, or most men wouldn't do, or I know at least previously in my past relationships, I would never say something like this. But the wild part is it had an absolutely profound effect on our relationship in a positive way. By holding my ground, by speaking my truth, it made a massive difference. And yes, it was uncomfortable. And I didn't come at it yelling and screaming. I came at it with peace and calmness in my heart, but I had that conversation. We had another one yesterday. It was difficult. It was awkward, but it made our relationship better. I've done this in the workplace by calling someone out, by disrespecting you, by calling somebody out who's taking advantage of you. I've seen it pay off to the point where these people actually wanted to employ me because they had so much more respect for me after doing this. The next thing, and this is critical, is taking on things that you're afraid of. Now, admittedly, a lot of people probably won't want to talk about things they're afraid of, but we all have these little fears. For myself, it's heights. Do not do well with heights. They can be very challenging for me. However, a year ago, I wanted to do something to challenge that. And it was zip lining. And we went zip lining. We started out small, and some of the lines we went over were 300-400 feet in the air, which is absolutely terrifying and honestly scared shitless. But on the other side of that, I found myself to have more confidence and more strength in myself and who I was, because I could take on that challenging thing, and I did make it through. Now again, I know it sounds kind of silly, but we all have those little fears. Maybe it's snakes, maybe it's rejection, maybe it's something small, something big. It doesn't really matter, but any sort of small fear that you can address. Maybe it's standing up to your boss, your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whoever it is. Maybe it's telling your parents something. When you take on that thing, when you take on that thing that you're afraid of, it'll sharpen your masculine core. And that's a wonderful phrase, actually, from Connor Beaton's book, Men's Work, and I absolutely love it. So I hope this brought you value. I hope that you can see, I'm not here to tell you how to run your life. I'm just telling you that I've made a ton of mistakes, and I'm on a path to become a better version of myself. And if you're willing, share this and come along this journey that I'm on to learn more and to grow and to become the best version of myself. And my hope is that you now become that and start trying to pull more out of your life, because that's my purpose here, is to help bring the best out of people. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next episode.